Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom and Chag Sameach and Modim V'Simcha. I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman. Today is Wednesday, the 24th of April 2024. Yesterday was the 200th day of this war which started, of course, on October 7th when Hamas plowed through Israel's borders and massacred Israelis, Jews and Muslims in an unparalleled inhumane attack. Indeed, the worst attack against Jews since the Holocaust, taking more than 250 people hostage. Let no one be in any doubt whatsoever. Our war aims remain precisely the same: to bring home all 133 hostages, still brutally imprisoned by Hamas in their terror dungeons. More than 200 days. Women, men, children, a baby, and the elderly. We will bring them all home, both the living and the dead. We are destroying Hamas, and we will ensure that Gaza never becomes a threat to us ever again. I want to start today with an update on our casualties from this war. IDF fatalities since the start of the October 7th massacre have unfortunately risen to 606. That's up 2 since our last briefing. The people of Israel grieve with the families of Major Reserves Dor Zemel. Dor was 27 years old from Even Yehuda in central Israel. Major Zimmel died on Sunday from his wounds after being badly injured on April the 17th by Hezbollah fire from Lebanon. He was due to marry his fiancée Shir just next month using a ring which honored another victim of the Nova Music Festival killing rampage, who was called Adir Mesika. And Sergeant First Class Salim Al-Kreshet was 42 from Abu Rabia's Bedouin tribe. An Israeli Bedouin Muslim soldier, he fell in battle in northern Gaza. He leaves behind 12 children, and a wife. His wife gave birth just 2 weeks ago. His friends say that he was extremely proud to serve in the Israeli Defense Forces and to be an Israeli citizen. A relative said of Salim, "In his home, the flag of Israel does not come down. This is our country. There are no words of mine that can assuage the pain of their parents and their families. We embrace them and those dear families who have lost their precious heroes, sons and daughters, in this war for our very existence. The price of war is heavy and it's painful. Each casualty is a world unto itself. May their memories be a blessing forever." Now an update from Gaza. The IDF has mobilized 2 reserve brigades for defensive and tactical missions in Gaza. As part of the readiness for operations in Gaza, these brigades have increased their readiness using experience gained from operations in Gaza and in the north. Hamas continues using humanitarian infrastructure with zero regard to Gaza civilians. Just this morning it was reported that Hamas placed loaded rocket launchers in a humanitarian zone in southern Gaza, where civilians are residing. The IDF precisely struck the launchers before the rockets were fired, with steps to mitigate harm to the civilians. In the past day, IAF fighter jets and aircraft have struck over 50 targets, tunnel shafts and terror infrastructure in central Gaza. To the north of Israel now, yesterday and today, there have been numerous launches from Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel's Air Force have hit the Hezbollah sources of fire forcefully in the area of Markaba, Aita Ashab, and Marwahin. Now to the claim of the supposed discovery of mass graves put out by Hamas over the Passover holiday here in Israel and parroted by others the world over. Needless to say, the claims are baseless and false. During the IDF's operation in the area of Nasser Hospital, now This is unpleasant, unfortunately. We tried to locate hostages and missing persons, corpses, buried by Palestinians in the area of the Nasser hospital. The examination was conducted in a careful manner, only in places where our intelligence pointed to the presence of hostages. The examination was carried out respectfully while maintaining the dignity of the deceased. Bodies were examined and which did not belong to Israeli hostages, and they were returned to their place. And so a libel was born and repeated the world over, like the famine libel. There is no famine in Gaza. Pictures show markets bustling with food in the north and southern Gaza. 357 aid trucks is the daily amount of aid trucks which have gone in the last day. 700 trucks worth of aid are waiting to be picked up on the Gazan side of Kerem Shalom. 700 aid trucks worth of aid. If you put aid trucks into a football stadium, about 97 aid trucks would fit into a football stadium. That means all that aid waiting to be distributed by a thoroughly inefficient United Nations. Food aplenty in Gaza. Again, like the genocide libel, the world's leading military experts, General Petraeus, former US Army generals and CIA Director Colonel John Spencer, head of urban warfare at West Point, and Colonel Richard Kemp, head of UK Armed Forces in Afghanistan, all say the same thing. Israel has set the gold standard in urban warfare. Minimal civilian casualties. At least 26,000 terrorists killed, apprehended or wounded and taken off the battlefield. And now the latest lie of mass graves. Lies and half-truths, Israel maligned. But here's the difference. We investigate and we get the truth out. Where there are mistakes, we hold up our hands and we admit to them. We own up to them. We make changes in our practices. We will, of course, prevail. There is little condemnation of Hamas firing from maternity wards or from the emergency rooms. And I can tell you one thing for sure, it was not the midwives that were doing the firing. In every hospital in Gaza, we have found terrorists. But we've targeted those terrorists, we've eliminated them, and civilians have been moved out of harm's way. Next, I want to deal with the US aid package to Israel, which has been approved by an overwhelming bipartisan majority at the US Senate. It's clear evidence of the unbreakable bond between the two countries and sends a powerful message to all of our enemies. Israel and the United States stand together in their fight against terror and in defense of democracy and our common shared values. Next to UNRWA, you know, Hamas has infiltrated UNRWA. We've said that many, many times, so deeply that it's in fact no longer possible to determine where UNRWA ends and Hamas begins. So we say this again. Here are the facts. More than 2,135 UNRWA workers are members of either Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad, prescribed terrorist organizations. 1/5 of UNRWA's school administrators are Hamas members. It's not a few bad apples, it's a rotten and poisonous tree whose roots are Hamas. The latest Colonna report ignores the severity of the problem and offers cosmetic solutions that do not deal with the enormous scope of Hamas's infiltration of UNRWA. It's sadly a whitewash. This is not what a genuine, thorough review looks like. This is what an effort to avoid the problem and not address it head-on looks like. Israel today calls on the donor countries to refrain from transferring their taxpayers' money, their hard-earned taxpayers' money to UNRWA, Gaza, as these funds will go to fund Hamas, the Hamas terrorist organization. And that violates legislation in the donor countries themselves. Israel calls on the donor countries to transfer their funds to other humanitarian organizations in Gaza. So that's the end of our briefing today. I will now take your questions, which you should put in the chat, together with your news outlet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First question from Dan Williams at Reuters. Is Israel moving ahead with its Rafah operation?
Thank you, Dan, for that question. Yes, I can confirm Israel is moving ahead with our operation to target Hamas in Rafah. We will, as usual, be making every effort to move civilians out of harm's way as we have done in the past. We believe that we've destroyed at least 18 or 19 of Hamas's 24 battalions, but the 4 battalions which remain in Rafah cannot be shielded from Israel. They will be attacked, and we do this for the simple reason, as Benny Gantz, our minister in the Security Cabinet, has said very, very clearly, we cannot put out 80% of this Hamas genocidal army fire and leave 20% still roaring, because that 20% will retake Gaza, they will regroup and retake Gaza, and they will attack us again. They wish to do October the 7th again, and we will not let that happen. We refuse to live next to this genocidal, poisonous terror army anymore. Next question, please.
Thank you. Second question from Dan Williams. Has Israel satisfied the U.S. that Palestinian civilians in Rafah will be relocated safely, and which foreign countries, if any, are helping with this relocation?
Thank you for that second question, Dan. We are, of course, informing all countries in the region, the countries where we have good relations. We are continuing to inform them of our intentions, so they are fully aware. And when it comes to moving civilians out of harm's way, that is a key part of Israel's war strategy, to ensure that no civilians are harmed as far as humanly possible. We get civilians out of harm's way, as we have done in the past, which has resulted, as General Petraeus, Colonel John Spencer, Colonel Richard Kemp have all said, have resulted in the gold standard of civilian to terrorist ratio when it comes to the results of this war. We are going after Hamas. We will not leave these four battalions still standing. Next question, please.
Thank you. Question from Jody Cohen, WION. What is Israel's response to calls for an international investigation into Hamas's allegations of Israeli executions and mass burials at hospitals in Gaza? And does Israel have trust in international investigations after the last one found that Israel hadn't provided evidence of UNRWA-Hamas links?
Thank you very much for that question, Jody. In my statement before these questions, I made a comprehensive response to Israel being maligned with this lie of mass graves, the latest in a long line of libels which seek to malign this country. We know these are lies. We've proved many, many times these are lies. Of course, the lies are reported. Our disproving these lies is very rarely reported, but we've ensured that all of our partners in the US and around the world are aware of the truth. These lies, of course, have a major effect on populations around the world, and we've seen that these lies have taken hold in many, many countries, resulting in huge increases in anti-Semitic attacks against Jewish communities around the world, on university campuses, and the world over, unfortunately. So the responsibility to report accurately is extremely important. We have wholeheartedly disproved this libel, and we will do so again and again and again. Every day, the lies against Israel mutate into a different lie, and so often they are parroted unquestionably. We simply ask this question. Would you parrot ISIS? Unquestionably. Would you parrot other terrorist organizations? Unquestionably. So why, when it comes to Hamas, the genocidal terror army of Hamas, are these lies, are these libels just parroted unquestionably? So yes, of course, we will do our utmost to defeat these lies. And we will also ensure that we do as much as possible to protect civilians. Israel protects civilians. Hamas seeks to maximize the effect of civilians on civilians. This is a key part of Hamas's strategy. They want to maximize civilian casualties because they think it will support their cause. They think it will save their skin, but it won't, of course, because we're going after Hamas and they will be defeated. Thank you, Jogi. Next question, please.
Question from Hannah Julian of the Jewish Press. There is a report that the ICC at The Hague plans to issue arrest warrants for very senior Israeli officials with the encouragement of the United States. Can you respond to this report?
Thank you very much for that question, Hannah. The Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has made a forceful riposte to those reports, which you can see on the Prime Minister's website, official website. He has very forcefully challenged those reports, and I've got nothing more to add than what the Prime Minister's already said. Thank you. Next question, please.
Question from David Isaac, JNS. You mentioned the aid package and the unbreakable bond between the U.S. and Israel, but the U.S. administration has been doing everything to stymie Israel's actions against Hamas and Iran. What is Israel doing to ensure freedom of action in the future?
Thank you for that question. The facts speak for themselves. That's all I will say on that question. The facts speak for themselves. Next question, please.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll have another press briefing tomorrow at the same time, at the same place. Please stay safe, and of course, Chag Sameach to those celebrating Pesach and Passover. Thank you. Bye-bye.